morning to everyone. Today we're going to talk about the circulatory system of vertebrates and invertebrates, their functions, and also their structure.
Circulatory system's function is to transport oxygen and nutrients throughout the entire body and carries away carbon dioxide and waste materials. For vertebrates and invertebrates, their circulatory system works in different ways because of the structure of their circulatory system, and their circulatory system can neither be an open or closed circulatory system. Open circulatory system. A fluid called hemolymph is pumped to the blood vessels that empties the body's cavity. Hemolymph return to the blood vessels through opening called ostia. Arthropods such as bees and mollusks have open circulatory system. In closed circulatory system, the heart pumps through vessels that are separated into the interstitial fluids of the body. Most vertebrates and some invertebrates such as the annelid earthworms have a closed circulatory system.
Humans and animals such as fishes, birds, reptiles, amphibians, mammals, and others have their own circulatory structure and also their functions, and it will be discussed later on.
Closed circulatory systems are characteristic of vertebrates. However, there are significant differences in the structure of the heart and the circulation of blood between the different vertebrate groups due to adaptation during evolution and associated differences in anatomy. The basic circulatory systems of some vertebrates, such as fish, amphibians, reptiles, and mammals, will be discussed further. Among all the vertebrates, fish have the simplest circulatory systems. As illustrated in this figure, fish have a single circuit for blood flow and a two-chambered heart that has only a single atrium and a single ventricle. The atrium collects blood that has returned from the body, and the ventricle pumps the blood to the gills, where gas exchange occurs and the blood is reoxygenated. This is called gill circulation. The blood then continues through the rest of the body before arriving back at the atrium, which is called systemic circulation. In short, the blood flows unidirectionally from the two-chambered heart through the gills and then the rest of the body. In amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals, blood flow is directed in two circuits, one through the lungs and back to the heart, which is called pulmonary circulation, and the other is throughout the rest of the body and its organs, including the brain, which is called systemic circulation. In amphibians, gas exchange also occurs through the skin during pulmonary circulation and is referred to as pulmocutaneous circulation. As shown in the figure, amphibians have a three-chambered heart that has two atria and one ventricle, rather than the two-chambered heart of fish. The two atria receive blood from the different circuits, and then there is some mixing of the blood in the heart's ventricle, which reduces the efficiency of oxygenation. In short, amphibians have two circulatory routes, one for oxygenation of the blood through the lungs and skin, and the other route is to take oxygen to the rest of the body. Most reptiles also have a three-chambered heart similar to the amphibian heart that directs blood to the pulmonary and systemic circuits, as shown in figure. The ventricle is divided more effectively by a partial septum, which results in less mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Some reptiles, such as alligators and crocodiles, are the most primitive animals to exhibit a four-chambered heart. Reptiles also have two circulatory routes. However, blood is only oxygenated through the lungs. The heart is three-chambered, but the ventricles are partially separated, so some mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood occurs, except in crocodilians, which have a four-chambered heart. In mammals and birds, The heart is also divided into four chambers, two atria and two ventricles, as illustrated in the figure. The oxygenated blood is separated from the deoxygenated blood, which improves the efficiency of double circulation and is probably required for the warm-blooded lifestyle of mammals and birds. The four-chambered heart of birds and mammals evolved independently from a three-chambered heart. The independent evolution of the same or a similar biological trait is referred to as convergent evolution. Mammals and birds have the most efficient heart with four chambers that completely separate the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. It pumps only oxygenated blood through the body and deoxygenated blood to the lungs.
Hello. So right now, to continue the discussion, I'm going to share to you about the structure of an invertebrate's circulatory system. But before that, let me give you a little recap on the topics discussed about the circulatory system. So, the circulatory system, also called the cardiovascular system or the vascular system, is an organ system that permits blood to circulate and transport nutrients, oxygen, carbon dioxide, hormones, and blood cells to and from the cells in the body to provide nourishment for the animal. Both vertebrates and invertebrates have a circulatory system. It has its structure and functions. Animals can have an open circulatory system, a closed circulatory system, and one can have no circulatory system at all. Okay, just remember that. Moving on, animal circulation depends on the construction of a pump, usually a heart that gives blood in one direction through the vessels along a circulatory way. Invertebrates can have either an open circulatory system or a closed circulatory system. More invertebrates have an open circulatory system than a closed circulatory system. Okay. The open circulatory system is the simpler of the two systems. This is common among arthropods. The heart gives blood, or as it is commonly known for open circulatory systems, the hemolymph. Okay, remember, the hemolymph, into an open cavity called a hemocell. There are no arteries or major veins to pump the hemolymph, so blood pressure is very low. Organisms with the open circulatory system typically have a relatively high volume of hemolymph and low blood pressure. Examples of animals with an open circulatory systems include insects, spiders, and most mollusks. Okay, to continue, an invertebrate with a closed circulatory system is the earthworm. The closed circulatory system has a heart and vessels. Blood then is enclosed in these vessels that transport blood from and to the heart. So there are fewer invertebrates with the closed circulatory system. There are more with the open circulatory system. So to sum it all up, most invertebrates have an open circulatory system, as I just said. It gives blood into the hemocell, with the blood diffusing back to the circulatory system between cells. Examples of animals with an open circulatory system that are invertebrates are insects, spiders, and mollusks. The earthworm is an invertebrate with a closed circulatory system. It has a heart that gives blood through vessels, and it does not normally fill in the body cavities. Okay, the structure of an invertebrate's circulatory system. Thank you for listening. Let's move on to the functions of an invertebrate's circulatory system. Thank you.
The invertebrate circulatory system functions the same. It distributes nutrients, respiratory gases, metabolic wastes, and hormones throughout the body. Open circulatory systems are mostly common in invertebrates. It has blood blood vessels, and the heart. And in open circulatory systems, hemolymph, the blood equivalent in invertebrates, is pumped into a cavity called a hemocoel. Open circulatory system allows the hemolymph to bathe the tissues directly. The hemolymph then returns to the blood vessels through pores or openings called ostia. Just to give you an idea, here's a diagram of an insect. The blood or hemolymph is basically poured out into the tissues in open circulatory systems. What is happening here is this long tube, the heart, its pumping organ. As it beats and as the animal moves, the hemolymph moves toward the head of the organism and circulates around the organs within the hemocoel. And it then re-enters the heart through openings called ostia. This movement allows for gas and nutrient exchange.
How does the circulatory system maintain homeostasis? The heart. The heart is a pump made of cardiac cells that circulates blood and lymph throughout the body. Its arteries carry oxygen-rich blood and nutrients to the tissues, while the veins transport waste products to areas such as lungs for elimination. The parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system control heart rate. Through these systems, the body reacts to its internal and external environments to change the heart rate and maintain homeostasis. For example, when a person starts to exercise, the body stops parasympathetic stimulation of the heart so the rate can gradually increase, bringing more oxygen and nutrients to the muscles. Then, as the exercise gets more strenuous, the sympathetic system begins sending signals to the heart to raise the rate even more. At the same time, the increased amount of waste products coming from the cells are transported out of the body at a faster rate, maintaining homeostasis. The blood vessels. The blood vessels, such as arteries, veins, and capillaries, can dilate and constrict to help the body maintain homeostasis. When sensors in the body detect an increase in core temperature, vessels dilate to allow more blood to pass through them, which releases excess heat. Vessels constrict when the core temperature drops, and this restricts blood flow and conserves heat. In addition, vessels contain baroreceptors that respond to stretching of the vessel walls caused by the blood. The receptors send signals to the cardiovascular centers in the brain which regulate blood pressure. The blood. The components of the blood are plasma, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Some homeostatic functions of the blood are the transport of the nutrients and wastes, defending the body against invaders, and distributing heat to regulate body temperature. The cells and other components of the blood are constantly on guard for and responding to invaders and taking care of injured and infected tissues. Without these safeguards in place, the body would bleed to death or succumb to infections that could be fatal. Plasma surrounds the blood cells and serves as its connective tissue. It contains additional components essential for homeostasis, including proteins, glucose, and hormones. Proteins, for example, act as a buffer to help regulate the pH of the body tissues. Lastly, the lymphatic system. Lymph is the excess fluid in the body that circulates slowly throughout the tissues. It is part of the lymphatic system, which is intimately tied to the immune system. Lymph is collected into lymph capillaries and then moved to larger lymph vessels and then into lymph nodes. Here, lymphocytes gather to clean and filter the lymph, and it is then returned to the circulation. The thymus and spleen are the organs of the lymphatic system. The thymus is where cells mature, which are essential for the adaptive immunity of the body. The spleen removes old red blood cells from circulation and acts as a lymph filter and synthesizes antibodies.